It may seem pretty crazy that there are 82 vacant federal judge slots around the country, but even more startling is that out of those vacant slots, 61 of them don't even have a nominee. On its face, it may sound like President Obama is slacking, but HuffPost's Jen Bendry reports that the bigger problem is Republican senators refusing to recommend potential judges in the first place. So, Zach, the fact that the judicial nomination process is worse than ever isn't necessarily news, but it's now clear that there's a serious problem coming from certain senators who are refusing to make recommendation. What's going on?
Right. I mean, there's been this back and forth between President Obama and Senate Republicans for a while about who's really to blame for the judicial nominations problem. And for the most part, Senate Republicans have said, well, look, you haven't sent us good nominees. We just want to, be good overseers and make sure that you're doing a good job, which is why this delay is taking so long. But what Jen found is that actually there are two different types of courts. You've got the district court level, where typically a Republican senator or just a senator, the local lawmaker, will bring forward a nominee. And then you've got the circuit courts, where that's something the president tends to move forward with the nominees. And at the district court level, there are a lot of Republicans who are just not nominating anybody. The Republicans aren't rejecting Obama's nominees. They're just not putting anybody on the table to be confirmed. And so we're having these court vacancies.
Wow, Zach, the process for moving judicial nominees is really kind of simple, right? I mean, the president takes the lead on circuit court nominees while senators kickstart the process for district court nominees. How did this get broken? Even in the age of Bush, where there was contention, even in the age of Clinton, where there was lots of infighting, particularly in the first term, we didn't see this kind of messiness.
Right, and I think what's particularly, the statistic, I believe the average wait time for a confirmation hearing or a confirmation vote for an Obama nominee is about 3 times as long as it was under President George W. Bush. That seems pretty bad. But when you're not even bringing forward nominees, it's hard to take that sort of behavior in good faith. It's hard to interpret that as just a reasonable disagreement on how best to run the country. It really seems like at that point, senators are actually trying to just block the process of governing.
Or you could argue that activist jurists have escalated, right? They've expanded to such a point that the right feels the need to resist more than they did in the age of Clinton or Bush.
But in this case, 2 of the senators who are the most egregious on this are Pat Roberts and Jerry Moran from Kansas.
Both reasonable fellas.
Well, on some issues they are. There are very few totally monolithic senators, but in this case, they could put forward a nominee. If they were worried about an activist judge getting confirmed, they could say, okay, here's somebody who we think is good, and then move the process along. Make in a much more conservative direction than it would move if the president were to nominate somebody. When they don't even bother to do that. I mean, this is kind of part of the basic job of being a senator. It's just really hard to interpret that behavior as a good faith act of governing.